Okay, so today almost all we are in the last session of Solid and JSP. We have covered everything in Solid and JSP. On last part, this also I have covered, but I'll just summarize. This is very important from your interview point of view. Okay, because when you go to any interview, they'll ask you write the different tags you know which can be used in the web.xml file. So all the tags you have to list. Okay, so that's why it becomes a very important interview question. I've covered everything. Only just I'll streamline it and put it into one place. It will be there in the document also. So whenever you go to interview, it will be helpful for you. Clear? So the title is what? Different tags used in web.xml. Okay. So it starts off with this exception handling in JSP. So how do you do exception handling in JSP? You know this. This is your interview question. Exceptions in JSP can handle in two ways. One locally, the other one is globally. Okay. Locally, you know how to do exception handling. How will you do? You will use the page directive. Error page is the attribute, and you'll give your URL. This is the URL you'll be giving. That is myerror.jsp. This is your error page now. So there you'll give this value. Clear? So if any exception occurs in this page, it will be forwarded to what? myerror.jsp. This will be caught. It will be caught here. So how will exception be handled here? Exception will be handled using exception implicit object. Here you have tried what? Percentage at the rate of page is error page is equal to true. So if you write this, here you'll have 9 implicit objects. The 9th one is exception, and it will handle it. So this is how you handle local. So JSP exception handling locally. Now we'll see how to do it globally for the entire application. Okay, see this. Let's focus on this only. See, here I am having hello.jsp, it is forwarded to myerror.jsp. That is okay. But in your project, if you are having around 50 or 100 JSPs, in all the 100 JSPs, can you go on writing the same thing? It will be a problem. So what we do is we can configure it globally also. So you don't have to write this in all the pages now. What you do if you don't write? Okay. Now see the second one now. Globally for the entire application. See in the case of local exception handling, what we do? We need to specify the error page attribute for the page directive in all the JSPs you are developing in the application. Instead of writing the page directives in all the JSP, you can centralize that in deployment descriptor. That's it. Means you'll be telling web app, error page. Error page. See now whatever I am listing now tags. Error page is the root tag of web app. Understand like that. And exception type is the root tag of child tag. Child tag of. See it's like this. Exception type is a child tag of error page. Error page is a child tag of web app. You have to use it like that only. Yeah. So that's why I have written it in that order. So if you specify like this, finished. Now what is the exception type I have written? Throwable. Java.lang.throwable is the super class of exception. Let any exception occur. It will be forwarded to what? myerror.jsp. Anywhere. Okay. And one more thing. Here I put the heading as exception handling in JSP. But if you do this configuration, see the heading is exception handling in JSP. Okay. You can do it locally also. You can do it globally also. This is how you do globally. Okay. Similarly, this configuration what you have done, this will be effective for what? Servlet also. By chance if any exception occurs in a servlet, see this I put the pointer. Note, it is the same way you configure for handling any exception occurring in servlet. So if you do this, even if any exception occurs in a servlet, if you are not handling it, okay, it will be forwarded to this JSP. Understood? So we have tried the about tags in web.xml, then all types of exception raised in all the JSPs will be forwarded to myerror.jsp. Means, just I will summarize it once again. Last point you write it down, then I will explain it to you. Yeah, I will come back once again. See means exception handling can be done in two ways. Okay, let's see. In JSP as well as servlet. Okay, so exception handling now. So locally how do you do? Percentage at the rate of page. Error page is equal to. This is how you do locally now. In JSP, this is how you do it locally. Error page is equal to myerror.jsp. This is how you do it. In a servlet, how do you do locally? How do you do locally? If it is a do get method or service method, whatever, this is local. You'll be writing try, catch, and here what will you do? rd dot forward you will do. That's all. This is local exception handling in Servlet. Dot slash or whatever it is, you give it. Okay. Sorry. Dot slash, what is that? Path you have to give. Dot slash JSP slash my error dot JSP. This is local. Globally how you do? Same for both. Globally how you do? Same for both. Means if it is not handled locally like this, now what will the container do? It look in web.xml. Okay, it will look in web.xml. And if you have configured it for throwable, what it will do? Any exception, here catch exception E, any exception, it will be forwarded to what? That error page. There also any exception, it will be forwarded to myerror.jsp. Clear? That's it. So this is what we mean. Globally same for both. That's what I am showing you. But here in the document I have highlighted JSP. In the document I highlighted only JSP. Okay, how you do exception handling in JSP is I highlighted. Clear? And exception handling is a big subject. You'll learn it with experience. Just I'm telling you how you configure. As you go on developing the project, you'll slowly start understanding how you do exception handling. Clear? So fine. See, globally for the entire application. In the case of local exception handling, I told you. Yeah. See, this is the way you configure. What is the exception type I specified? jar.lang.throwable. And any occurs of any exception occurs, it will be going to myerror.jsp. So we have tried about tags in web.xml, then all the types of exception raised in all the JSPs will be forwarded to myerror.jsp. Here I am keeping JSP in mind, I am talking. But I put a note also button. Note, it is the same way you configure for handling any exception occurring in Servlet also. Done? Fine. Now see, there if any exception occurs, it was going to what? myerror.jsp. But sometimes it will be precise. Like IO exception occurs, you want to go to some JSP. Some other exception occurs, you want to go to some other JSP. That also is possible. There I kept super class. But here what I will do? So you can also specify error pages for individual exceptions. If IO exception occurs, go to this JSP. Okay. If by chance you have written custom exception, your own custom user defined exception, let it go to this JSP. That is also possible. Understood? So you can configure like this also. Whether it is built in or user defined, that is secondary now. But if this exception occurs, go to this JSP, or if this exception occurs, which one? Account not found exception or something like that, go to account error.jsp. This is also correct. Now the interview question. If I specify the exception handling globally and locally, which one will be executed? Obviously local one. Because you have configured globally, but you want to override it. Override it means you don't want that in. See, for all the JSPs you will have one exception like this. Okay, configured. But in one JSP, for account not found exception, you want to go to another JSP. For local. So that time you go for local. Means the idea is what you know. The local one overrides the global one. Our first preference will be given to local, and then it will go to global. So this gets more weightage now. Which one? Even if you are configured in web.xml, this gets the first preference. Clear? If you configure it like that. Fine. Clear the exception handling now? Fine. Next, handling HTTP status codes. There are many HTTP errors you get. 404, 5, what is that? 405, many are there still. Okay. Through experience you will start understanding what are the different errors. But if that error occurs, you don't want that 404 to be displayed, 405 to be displayed, means that is also possible. You can do it like this. So anywhere in any JSP, if that error is occurring now, anywhere, so you can, if 404 is about to happen, that time what will be displayed? A.jsp. If 405 is about to have happened, that time it will display B.jsp like that. You can configure like this also. So HTTP status codes are handled globally for the entire application in the following way. Rest all tags you are aware, but I am just covering it from interview point of view, because when suddenly they ask in interview, you will get confused. So that's why I prepared a special document for this. Reason is streamlining or fine tuning. You know select configuration now? Again if I tell you, what will you do? You let me know. Okay, so you only go through web app, select mapping, clear? So how you have to understand now? Servlet name is a child tag of servlet. Servlet is a child tag of web app. Like that only you understand. So when you write in the entry also, you write it like that. Yeah. Filter configuration almost all same now. Hardly any difference between what? Servlet and filter. See this. Yeah. Then next, listener configuration. Clear? Then context parameters. You can have any name, any value. Okay. So then again, config parameters. Understood? So this is how you configure. So there you use context param, here you use init param. But difference is what? Context param is under the web app, but here init param is under servlet. That you don't forget. Load on startup. Correct? Fine. And this number you can give anything, 10, 20, anything. Okay. So it is only the priority what you are telling. Clear? Session timeout. Yes. So you can do, we can set the session time. If the session object has to be destroyed implicitly by the container, you can set the time. Okay. So if you set, you can do it in two ways. One programmatic, one declarative. I am talking about declarative style. Okay. So if you do it like this, what will happen? Your session timeout is specified in minutes. If you do it programmatically, it will be in seconds. That is session.max inactive interval. But more than that, we prefer this. It depends, but maximum we depend on this itself. Configuring welcome files. Okay. So like this, if you configure multiple which one? Welcome files. Generally you write one. But if you write many, A, X, Y, Z and all that, so preference will be given to what? First one. Means you don't have to type the full URL now. You'll have to type only what? The project name, application name, web app name. If you type www. Or HTTP localhost, your application name is my app. HTTP localhost my app, that is sufficient. Now which one will be displayed in your application? X.jsp will be displayed. But if there are many JSPs you have configured, first one gets the preference. It will not give error, but it will be preference will be given to the first one. And this is an important interview question. Property group means you can configure some things on JSP also. See this, web app JSP config is the tag. Property group is another child tag. URL pattern is child tag. You can set your URL pattern. Star.jsp means for all the JSPs, what I am trying to do now, I am disabling what? EL. You can disable EL locally also. How you disable it locally? Percentage at the rate of page is EL ignored is equal to true. There only that JSP is disabled. EL is disabled only in that JSP. But here it will be disabled for what? All the JSPs. Similarly, you can write scriptlets, but writing scriptlets is what? A bad approach. Scripting elements. All the scripting elements, which are scriptlets, declarations, expressions. You don't want this to be used in any of the JSP in the entire project. So, but TL doesn't want to be written. But there are some developers, they like to write. So you can avoid it. How? If he just configures like this, now in all the JSPs, scripting will be disabled. So there are some tags which you can use to configure your JSP. Just get the idea like this. So I have commented, see this is for disabling EL, this is for disabling scripting. So these are some of the tags which you should know to go to interview. So that's all about Servlet JSP now. We have covered maximum. Clear? Okay, that's it.